It is nice to have you here joining us on Hospitality Insights with Muse. It's definitely been a year of AI. It's undoubtedly true. And I'm sure that the attendees are looking forward to hearing your thoughts on all of this. Briefly share with me a bit about your background. I mean, you've got a fairly unique position and story.
Yeah, I joined Microsoft about 8 years ago. But prior to that, I was in the airline space and the hotel space, kind of in sales, marketing, customer experience measurement, training, all those type of sides. And then at that time, many of these large scale tech companies started building up an industry muscle. So been very fortunate to move from one side of the house to the other side of the house, which is the tech side, and then look at how tech can drive more operational efficiency, improve the customer experience, improve the employee experience, and then really try to push the industry to embrace technology, both the business side and the IT, and how do we get them working together to make changes in the industry, because overall it's a little bit behind compared to other industries, let's say in the ecosystem that we work with at Microsoft itself. So always fun and challenging as you try to push the industry forward.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you've seen both sides of this now.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into this talk on AI, I would like to get it back to a bit of the first principles of travel and hospitality. So why don't you share with me a quick summary of your last remarkable vacation? This is a question I ask in just about every interview I ever do, by the way.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I attended the World Travel Conference. It was in Rwanda. It was in the last 30 days. So I added on, and that country is amazing. It went through, unfortunately went through genocide over 30 years ago. So it's rebuilt itself. The people, the places, they're trying to drive tourism there, but spent some time there, added a safari on the back end. It's kind of like, looks like a little bit like Jurassic Park. It's super lush like Hawaii, which I was expecting something different. And then I did Gorillas in the Mist, which is not for the faint of heart. As you trek through the jungle and you're hanging out with gorillas for an hour. It amazing, scary, yet amazing and remarkable at the same time. So it was a truly an amazing experience. And the people there are just, one of a kind.
Yeah, I will point out that you didn't talk about the PMS or the booking engine you experienced or how your cards were cut.
No, yeah, no. Travel's about the people that you meet, the human to human experience, and then experiencing new opportunities. Even, going to a country like Rwanda helps you kind of reset, what you have in your world at home. And as you hit these new places around the world, it's really about the overall experience and then how it impacts you emotionally. And the people and the happiness and humility and humanity. It's all coming together under one banner here in Rwanda, and would highly recommend a visit there to anyone. If they're bucket list to go to Africa, I would put Rwanda at the top of the list.
Wow. I mean, the power of a personal testimonial and a personal referral
Yeah.
is tremendous, isn't it? I feel like that's a whole other conversation we could have. I
Yes,
mean,
agreed.
especially with your background from Forbes, right? It's
Yeah.
very incredible. Okay. Well, transitioning from talk about the importance of human connection and the human impact on travel and hospitality, let's move right over to artificial intelligence and artificial intelligence, impact on the industry that we both work in. So let's get right to it. I'll ask the direct question. Let's go back to last year, 2022. What were you thinking of last summer in 2022? What were you thinking the future held for 2023?
Well, it's fascinating because I think the number one discussion I had last year was all around the metaverse, and focused specifically on that. So as we rolled into 2023, the assumption was that conversation would continue to grow. You would define specific use cases associated with that and drive more success. And then that kind of came to a halt with the advent of generative AI that came out in January of this year, or came out earlier at the end of last year. But those great use cases, of course, around the metaverse, specifically kind of in training and remote maintenance. But it just did a quick flip, around generative AI, and this concept that you have, all the writings of humanity ever that are out there in an API, is still mind-boggling even today. So this idea of generative AI, whether it's around ChatGPT, DALL-E, Codex, whatever it is, how is that now influencing? I guess in 2022, you would not predict generative AI in 2023 because it was still kind of under the radar across the board, and then it just popped, and now it's everywhere. And if my kids know it, I know it's everywhere, across the board.
Yeah, that's, I think, one of the powerful aspects of what GPT did is that the metaverse, blockchain, NFTs, all these technologies that were discussed and how do we apply them to hospitality, they were difficult to wrap your mind around for
Little
most
stretches,
people.
yeah. There were stretches in each area, trying to find the
Yeah.
right use. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
And then with
GPT feels like
ChatGPT,
it's,
ChatGPT, you can find exactly the appropriate use case based on, helping you develop superpowers to do better things, drive more productivity across the board. So the use cases are easier, and how do you move down that path as quick as possible?
and so your Q4 of last year, of 2022, suddenly everything changed.
Yes.
OpenAI is on the scene. I can't remember when Microsoft invested into OpenAI. Was it in January?
No, we invested in 2019. So we were one of the early investors in the company. And then we have the exclusive rights at Microsoft to take OpenAI and put it inside our cloud family and it's called Azure OpenAI. And then that works within the context of your own enterprise with your data and data state. So yeah, so we made an early investment and been very successful working side by side with them for a number of years. And
Okay.
then throughout this year, now we've begun the process in embedding Copilot into all our
Mm-hmm.
products and services that we have, whether it's in PowerPoint, it's in Outlook. I mean, it can draft an email for you. When before, you're typing 3 letters and it pops. Now it can actually write the whole email for you. So the amount of productivity it's been able to drive in my daily life has been significant across the board. Or it can go through your emails and say, hey, what are the most important? It pops out the couple 3 that are most important, and I'll respond right away if I'm on vacation for a week, as an example. So tremendous use cases across the board.
Yeah, it's very easy to see how that transforms into the world of hospitality, whether it's operations or training.
Yep.
But it still feels like a heavy lift for a lot of smaller operators and smaller collections. So how do you think a smaller hotel collection or portfolio operator can activate AI going into 2024?
Well, I mean, I think I'm a big fan of the use cases more associated with kind of the internal ones, just because there's less risk associated with it. But again, there's labor challenges across the board. How do we attract new, labor? How do we be digitally enabled as we attract this younger generation? I think it was on the last podcast of trying to get the younger generation into the hospitality industry to work. But how do we automate things that are predictable, things that we should know that are very paper based? How do we automate all that? And there's tools out there that can automate. And there's plenty of companies, plenty of startups, plenty of tech companies out there that can help you automate the things that are very mundane. And then that ability to allow people to use their personalities to connect with the consumer, to make that emotional connection. So there's still a lot of paper processes associated with behind a hotel or back of house. And how can small hotels utilize some of this technology to automate the stuff that should be automated? And and again, I came from the hotel industry, so I thought it ran pretty good. Or the airline industry. Then I moved to Microsoft, understand tech a lot better. And then I come back into the industry. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of work needs to be done. So I think embracing technology, creating and providing tools that are not consumer-based tools. I mean,
Mm,
WhatsApp, text, all that stuff is a data security nightmare, but hotels are still using it internally. They're using B2C tools, their employees. So how do you protect your data from a security privacy perspective, and help jump on a platform that drives more operational efficiency and then protects all the endpoints that you have as a business? Because that's a big challenge, of course, and getting even worse in the marketplace today with ransomware, and all that type of stuff. So there's a lot. A small hotels need to protect themselves as well, and then using digital tools to drive more automation across the board.
I find it fascinating that you really believe that starting from the internal tooling is the best way forward. I think it's a fantastic suggestion, because like you mentioned, it's low risk. You're not
Yeah,
exposing your brand or your guests,
correct. And I
and
think
it
many of the
drives the
companies,
efficiency where
yeah,
it really counts.
yeah, and I think many of the companies are looking like I'd call them different swim lanes, but they're starting with some key use cases in the short term, and then the long term, they're building out kind of these B2C swim lanes using AI associated with that. But then just being very careful and mindful, because once you go out there, you're in the wild, and number one, you want to most important thing is to protect your brand, and so you have to ensure that you get it right if you're out in the B2C space.
Yeah, the other point you mentioned was that it should enable a brand or an operator to free up their people for a more human connection. I love
Correct.
that.
Correct. And you're that's why people are in the hospitality business. They love the human connection. They have a human spirit that they want to, extend to other people, make them feel happier. And that ability to do that. And that's where kind of high tech and high touch kind of blends together. And how do you find for your property, how do you find that right mix associated with it for your property? Because everyone's different. And based on who the consumer is coming through, you also have different age ranges. So, how do you navigate to appease all of the, types of people that come into your property? And then for what reason? Business, for leisure, for family, whatever it may be, this idea of knowing the person, personalizing that experience. And then I think this also concept of, we talk a lot about anticipatory service.
Mhm.
Those were my old days at Forbes Travel Guide. That was the number one thing. Now, anticipatory digital service. So how do you present your consumer with content to make their journey a better journey? And kind of this in-journey experience is something that's lacking in the hotel space. Because once I arrive at a
Yeah.
hotel, it's pretty much a self-service environment beyond maybe the mobile key. But how do you present me with content that makes my experience a better experience at this property? I think is critically important, especially for this next generation of travelers who are very digitally enabled and digitally connected.
Yeah, hyper personalization has been a buzzword, an industry buzzword for several years, but that
For
is a
decades.
goal.
For
That's
decades.
not, yeah, that's not a means. That's just the goal. And it seems as if for, like you said, a decade, it's mentioned as this holy grail, but no one has talked about a path to get there. Is
Yeah.
this the moment?
This is the moment. I mean, as you look at AI and you look at this concept that I have my own co-pilot here that works with me, and then theoretically a hotel or hotel brand could have their own co-pilot that works with them. And when I arrive at the property, the two co-pilots are talking to each other, and I'm giving the information to the branded's co-pilot to say, "Hey, here, this is why I'm here." And then they're talking and they're providing me the best content to make my journey a better journey while I'm there. So that concept is, it's getting closer over time. And I
Hmm.
think as you see with generative AI over the last year and the investments companies like Microsoft continue to make in the space, it doesn't grow from this to this; it grows from this to that to that. So it's growing at a pace that our investment in that space is bigger and larger investment than we've done in many, many years in any vertical, to continue to push, the success of generative AI to drive more productivity across the verticals, whether it's around the customer experience, the employee experience, operations. Call center is probably one of the bigger areas, where there's lots of operational efficiencies you can have. So I think there's lots of different areas, whether it's sales, marketing, call center operations, customer care, all those areas really drive more operational efficiency. And we have some great use cases in the marketplace around all of those, to help drive down cost and improve and drive down cost, and then also provide a better experience for the consumer.
There are there's a lot of excitement talking about this sort of digital twin or your personal co-pilot, your avatar. But that again would be on the high risk end of the spectrum of for a brand to put something out there who could be the digital twin of your brand and operations, right? That could
Yeah.
broker communications with guests. If we take it all the way back to those internal operations, do you how do you imagine that might work for like an employee's digital twin or co-pilot in their existence within a hotel operations? Is that where we could start?
Yeah, you could start on the employee side. I mean, again, we talk a lot about what we call decentralized ID, or we have platforms that do this, but it's this idea that how do I onboard an employee as quick as possible? How do I verify who they are? And then how do I bring them into a platform where communication, collaboration, stronger sense of culture is always in there? In the old days, we used to put, downstairs in a hotel, they used to put storyboards, around, hey, these are some great things that happened this week. People learn from good and bad things, and how do you bring that stuff to the digital world and just, the research Microsoft has done on the employee side in the hospitality space is they're happy with their relationship with each other, like other peers and employees, but as you go upstream, they feel disconnected by their leadership team. So how do you get everyone on the same platform and you can communicate and collaborate across this entire spectrum? And then that further fosters a stronger sense of culture and inclusivity. So how does tech help in that arena? I think is critically important to the future success of the industry and to drive this younger generation into the industry to work and create their own passion for travel in general.
So does Microsoft dog food some of that? Are you
Yeah, we
seeing
dog
some of
food it
this?
all. Yeah, I mean, we dog food it all. I mean, we've been using ChatGPT since it came out. As an example, I mean, I use it when I do presentations sometimes. So there's a lot of different use cases we use it. But the unique thing about Microsoft is we dog food pretty much everything ourselves. And they turn us on like this. You know what I mean? There's no soft ramp for any of us. It's just okay. This is on. Okay, go and see and provide feedback, positive, negative feedback, and we will continue to evolve. And I think that, Tim, that goes back to your maybe part of the discussion around the industry is, how as an industry do we fail fast and move forward? And things that we may have done last year, technology has changed dramatically in a year. So as an industry, how does business and IT kind of come together to drive change in the industry and work together to make this happen? I think pre-COVID, IT and business were kind of separated. Now I think they're coming back together, working together. But how do you accelerate your growth? And how do you embrace technology? And how do you not be afraid of technology? I think that's a huge area of push for the industry as a whole, because it's been, it's classified as one of the laggards across the
Yeah.
board. So how do we make that work? And there's a lot of reasons for that. Based on how the industry is set up, where they don't own the hotels, there's more sales,
Hmm.
marketing, representation companies. So there's a lot of issues associated with that, but those are not things that you can't overcome, because there's a lot of industries, QSR, there's a lot of franchise models out there, again, smaller type of boxes. But that ability to drive change and embrace technology is something that we need to continue to embrace as an industry. And kind of people in our industry have been in the industry a long time, which is good and bad at the same time, because we want to be learn-it-alls. We want to continue to evolve our thinking to make things better across the board.
I love that term, to learn it all.
Yeah, it's
Is that
great.
yours? Is that
And
you?
I mean, if
Is
you
that
learn
your
it
coined
all,
phrase, or is that a
oh
Microsoft?
no, that's our CEO's coin phrase. Can't do it. Yeah. But if
Okay.
you think of generative AI, and we do a lot of speaking engagements, around the country and around the world around generative AI, and I think people kind of know what it is, but how is it relevant for me in my daily life? And then the next stage is, okay, I can see how it's relevant for me. Now, okay, now how do I embrace it? How do I act on it? And maybe that's the message as we move forward for 2024 is, this idea of acting on it. To drive change is probably the biggest area in each whatever department you're in inside the hotel. Could be in finance, could be in sales, could be in marketing, but each area has there are use cases that are out there in the marketplace that are significant, that improve productivity across the board, or even developers, where they can, we do like POCs a lot, and someone said to me, said that POC used to take me 3 weeks to get off the ground. Now I can get it off the ground in a weekend, using Codex as an example, which is part of the generative AI family. So it's really about the embrace of technology moving forward more so than anything.
So it's a mindset. What you're suggesting then is that hotels and hospitality operators have to adopt that mindset, not to wait. So you're
Yeah,
what's your biggest fear then of like by
inactivity.
if okay,
Inactivity is the
inactivity.
biggest
Yeah.
fear. Yeah, I mean it's the ability to say, oh yeah, I know what it is. Like this year, okay, now I kind of have an idea what it is, and then next year you're like, yeah, I kind of know what it is. Maybe I'll use it. I don't know. I'm busy. We got a lot going on, which we all do. But it's then trying to work with, um, the product or the service. I mean, we're embedded into our products and services, so it's part of. I mean, it's part of my email. I have Copilot. I can answer the email, or I could just ask Copilot to answer the email. Um, so and then it'll dip into my if I have Dynamics or my Salesforce, it'll dip in there or grab the information and it will stitch something together. You know, I would say in the beginning, I was like, yeah, no, I think I'll do it myself. And now I'm like, okay. And then it comes back. And again, the human supervises everything. So I'm still supervising, but it's learning how I write. And therefore, it's getting closer and closer every time. So just this idea of embracing it in a way that is natural in my day-to-day life, I think it's important for us to do next year. And in each job function that you have, there's probably a use case associated with it.
That's fantastic. It feels like this could be a ground up transformation and adoption as individuals integrated into their daily workflows.
Yes, yes. And it can help the industry exponentially accelerate its movement from a tech perspective across the board. And I think there's a McKinsey study it had, as I think it said that the number one industry that can be influenced by AI is travel. And that's probably due to the sheer amount of information across the board, across the entire ecosystem. But it's a fragmented journey, as we all know. There's,
Yeah.
you got your Uber, you got your hotel, you got your airline, you got your airport, you have everything it's super fragmented. So, as we move forward, 2024, 2025, can the industry have kind of a moment of unity where they're collaborating and they're sharing information, understanding privacy rules and all that across the board to make my journey a better journey. That's the dream state. That's the dream state. But I mean, ultimately, that's where, as a consumer, I would like to get to. So there could be a path forward in that arena, and AI can, of course, help facilitate that as well.
I mean, is a moment of unity among hospitality operators and brands and tech companies, is that moment of unity required to truly unlock it?
No, but it helps accelerate it. And I would say more of the moment of unity between airlines, airports, transportation companies, hotel. I'm talking more about the layer above.
Right.
I think the working together, collaborating hoteliers slash tech companies, I think is critically important moving forward as well. But I think I'm more talking about kind of the upline experience for the consumer, where the industry as a whole, theoretically can work together. I think in the tech industry, they do a great job of collaborating with their competitive sets, and finding spaces that work together where we don't compete, and how do we work together in those arenas. I think the tech sector has done a great job in the last probably 5 to 10 years around that, which before they weren't, and now they are. And you've seen the success of the tech companies, over the last couple of years as well, and that's could be part of it, or should be probably part of their overall success.
So that moment of unity should enable more of us to be able to get our gorillas in the mist experience without the stress, without the hassle.
Yes, it'll make our planning process much easier. Yes.
Yeah, planning
And
getting
entering
us
these
there.
magical experiences, which what's travel is about, is these magical
Yeah.
experiences that sit with you forever. And I show some pictures of my gorillas in the mist, and people are like, that's from Instagram. I'm like, no, it's me. Show me a picture with you in it. I'm like, and here it is. Like, wow, it could be, those are amazing experiences, and
Yeah, those
amazing experiences
remarkable
to
moments.
tell as well. Yeah, remarkable moments.
Fantastic. And I really appreciate your insights. I think, like I said at the start, you have a unique perspective on some of this, sitting and being so closely involved with some of the greatest hospitality companies and brands, but also just being at the center of really AI and how it applies to billions of people around the world today. So thank you for sharing your time